Live-action dating sims continue to become their own genre with all of these Chinese-developed FMV games. The makers of Love Is All Around are back with their own take on a dating sim in ancient mythological China. In this video, we will deep dive on the story, new features, and its odd endings. Here is my review of God Bless or Goddess for the Nintendo Switch and backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch 2. In this story, you play as Lin Fan, a disciple of a mythological sect of people learning magic to eventually ascend to the heavenly plane and become immortal deities. The catch is, you're the only male member of the sect, your training being guided but also hindered by several mischievous females, like a master that throws you into hot springs, and many sisters of the sect that want to help you just as much as they want to flirt, punish, and fight over you. But in this scenario, they aren't just girls that can push or slap you when they think you're being a creep. They can punish you with literal magic. This is the least serious and most fan-servicey of NeoGamer's FMV games. From the very start, almost every scene is hinting at sexual innuendo every chance they get. It makes for an extremely entertaining experience when you can choose a girl's beauty by calling her plump and round, being told that you must have felt some pleasure from all the punishment that they inflict upon you, or having to choose between drinking blood soup with an animal penis in it or an equally disgusting sounding alternative. Every choice towards the start made me just say, "Excuse me?" when we streamed the game last week. But there is a story in here. Once you get a little bit into the game, they start to spend more time with the actual plot of Lin Fan honing his skills as he spends time with the 6 heroines. When it got serious, I did enjoy all of the lore they put into how the magic arts of cultivation worked, and it always looked cool when they would throw in special effects for lightning magic being used for punishment or the little beam struggle you get during the meeting of 2 different sects. But that's assuming you can even read fast enough to keep up. The biggest problem I have with this game is the subtitles change way too fast. I struggled to keep up with the story without constantly pausing the game with each subtitle, sometimes 1 sentence and sometimes 2, only displaying for a couple seconds before moving on. I checked through all of the game's menus and you cannot slow this down. You either read really fast, pause to try to keep up, or just do the best you can. But what I did like was how they used the returning actresses. You'll recognize a few of these ladies from previous FMV games, in particular the actress that played the American foreign exchange student Nico from Knowledge or No Lady cameos here as an evil spirit, and is the only character in the game to speak English for all of her scenes. She did not speak English in the last game she was in, so it came as quite a surprise to me when she showed up and I didn't have to read subtitles for her. It wasn't great and fluent English, but still a surprise. Now let's talk about the routes. I think the heroines of this game are good, but their routes and endings are just okay. I enjoyed the conflict, especially surrounding the Iron Veil character, but the routes are really just ending bits of being quizzed by them at the end and then getting your ending. And those endings are really what make me think this is the weakest story of the FMV games by NeoGamer. When I first got Iron Veil's endings, I didn't even realize I got her good ending. It was just a continuation of a scene and didn't really feel very conclusive at all. I swore up and down there were better endings I could have gotten even after I'd gone through every single branching path. Siren's endings were the same. There was no conclusive scene of their relationship later on, no time skip like we normally see in other FMV games. It was just a continuation of a scene, and the more endings I got, the more I just kept thinking, is that it? There are harem and ascension endings that do feel a little bit more conclusive, but the individual heroine endings just don't have any sort of finality to them. Let's move on to gameplay. This is an FMV game that feels like a visual novel. Like the other games these developers have made, it feels like an interactive movie. Every scene has you watching recorded videos of real Chinese actresses playing out the story, moving from scene to scene based on your dialogue choices and branching paths. When you first boot this up, it lets you go into the story from the main menu along with some neat little screens to see biography and rewatch scenes and bloopers with each of the heroines. I really enjoy the bloopers that they put into these games so you can actually see the camera crew and all of the actresses in the process of making these sorts of games. Progression is like a VN. You watch the scenes and make dialogue choices. Making a choice will affect a heroine's affinity as it will show you with little heart icons that pop up right after you make each choice. Your goal is to navigate the choices to get onto your chosen heroine's ending path, but you'll also need to experiment around. Different choices will get you items added to your inventory which you will need to make certain choices. This is really important towards the end of the game, like finding little scroll items for each heroine to be able to get her better choices for the ending path. With an affinity system here, you're going to need high affinity if you want to pass the choices to get your heroine's ending. And just like a few of the last FMV games, there is no way for you to check what your affinity is with the heroines outside of going back and replaying a chapter ending, so the chapter end screen will tell you. This is the exact same formula that Knowledge or No Lady use all the way down to items, but there are two new features in the form of a map and QTEs. A few times during the story, you can move around to different locations on this map here to see side events with the other heroines. You earn points in each chapter and can use those points to see the events. You don't really need to worry about losing all of your points unless you're absolutely wanting to look at everything in a single playthrough. Then there's the quick time events for combat. You run into hostile characters a few times across the game, having you inputting buttons to pass minigames as you duel and fight them off. It doesn't happen very often, but it's a neat addition you wouldn't expect to see in a visual novel-like game that doesn't meld genres. I do like this gameplay formula overall, but I really just wish there was some way to check affinity for the girls outside of replaying a chapter ending. And do note that while there are affinity requirements for endings, and raising affinity for one girl will lower affinity for the others. I had Iron Veils high enough for her endings, but after experimenting with the Siren and Void paths, I tried redoing Iron Veils and saw that her affinity had dropped from 75% to just over 50%. You'll have to do a fair amount of grinding if you want to see the other girls' endings, or if you want to do them all to get that final harem-style ending. In terms of content and length, you won't be spending too long on this game. It took me about 3.5 hours to get the first ending for Iron Veil, so if you want to go for 100%, I wouldn't expect it to take more than around 5 to 6 hours to get the items for everyone's routes. This is all due to how convenient their branching system is. With just a simple tap of the B button in the middle of a scene and you're back on the branch screen and can seamlessly go into others to be able to redo choices. Moving on to presentation, these are all live action recorded videos and not rendered out graphics. There is a bit of pixelated animation that happens from time to time as you're watching the videos, and there's a little bit of a soft blur on the footage. It's very similar to how the other FMV games look on the Switch, likely due to compression. But the good news is we don't have any of those horrible pixelated sections like we saw in Knowledge or No Lady. The special effects they use for the magic here looks pretty decent as well. Whenever you see someone wielding lightning or launching off little energy attacks, it looks pretty good, having all of the effects fluid and coming from where they need to be coming from. It is a little obvious that all of the backdrops are green screened, but for what they are, they do look pretty decent. I have nothing bad to say about performance, so let's go right into battery life. On the original and light models, God Bless or Goddess will give a battery range of about 4 to 5 hours. The V2 and OLED models get 6 to 7.5 hours, and the Nintendo Switch 2 will get around 4 hours and 19 minutes. In conclusion, God Bless or Goddess is a wildly entertaining story of a man trying to ascend to the heavenly realm while being guided and tempted by 6 magic-wielding women. On the downside, there's a bit too much focus on the innuendo, and many of the heroines' endings just don't feel very conclusive, easily making this the weakest of this developer's FMV game stories. But if you enjoy the FMV genre and like sex jokes, you'll get quite a few laughs out of this dating sim set in mythological China. Reviews to Go rates God Bless or Goddess for the Nintendo Switch a 6.5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel as I post new Switch and Switch 2 reviews every single week. And if you want more content like this, check out my Switch review of Knowledge or No Lady, and I'll see you guys in the next one.